And you're now tuned into yet another edition of Wealthy Being Live, Monday's Mental Health Edition. I am your co host, TMR Woodford, and I have Aneem Awe, my amazing co host, with me. What's
Hi, everyone.
happening? Hey, we're back.
Welcome. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. It's been an interesting one so far, but happy Mental Health Awareness Month to everyone out there.
Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. I didn't even know it was Mental Health Awareness.
Yes, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We're supposed to be promoting, encouraging, having discussions like this around mental health and various mental health topics, and that's what we do here already.
Whew. Well, and if it's not May, you can find us every Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as long as we're not having technical difficulties, having
Yeah,
these conversations live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all of the channels.
all of the above. Yes.
The topic of discussion today is an interesting one:
Yes.
online harassment and mental health.
Yeah, it's getting, some of these platforms, things are getting out of control, and I can definitely see how it can impact one's mental health. And honestly, as I mentioned to you earlier, one of the things that got me thinking about this is like, in lieu of the conversations of Miss Cheyenne Bryant, to call her Dr. Bryant is questionable at this point. I think so, but I think to give full background, right? It's come into question whether or not how she has been presenting herself and some of the credibility that she claims to have is actually did she actually earn it? I think that's a big question. But I think, unfortunately, the conversation has shifted gears from whether questioning her legitimacy, calling her out, which I think, and calling her in as well, is valid. But I think the conversation is shifting gears to sort of full on out like bullying. And I'm a little concerned about what's happening. Adults, right? And this is not teenagers necessarily, these are full blown adults. And it's been interesting to say the very least. I'll say that.
Okay, so I don't know a lot about it, so I'm going to be playing pivot to you on that topic. But I'll say this: people on the internet are a little too much into what other people are saying.
Mm,
Like half the time, I find myself looking at posts like, "Why do y'all care so much?"
yeah,
Like, and then I question myself, like, "Well, why do you care enough to wonder why they care?" But no, people have their own personal lives, and I guess when you put yourself out here, you are exposing yourself to potential ridicule
yeah,
and the opinions and projections of other people.
yeah. And I think it definitely comes with, like you said, putting yourself out there. But I think there's a fine line that we cross when it comes to a point where, like, I'm literally seeing people like consistently, incessantly posting about her every single day and looking for any way to sort of discredit her or belittle her, call her ugly. Like, it's just getting to a point, and that is becoming quite ridiculous. And again, I just want to just note that this is coming from adults, and I get the frustration, right? I get how hard a lot of us as licensed mental health clinicians we work to get to this point, because trust me, it was blood, sweat, and tears. And I don't want to sort of undermine that, but I think it's gotten to the point where it's become these sort of elitist, or I like to say fake elitism, because I honestly, I think I'm elite. And so it's really hard to be elitist towards me. But like, I had somebody last night on Threads say something like, oh, well, you're not even a doctorate. You don't even hold a doctorate. So why are you even having this conversation? I'm like, oh, honey, you got the right person, right? Because what it proves to me is a couple things. A lot of this online bullying or online hate are people who are actually secretly obsessed with you or secretly following you and like actually are inspired to you by you rather, and they just don't know how to communicate that. They see you standing up in your courage, or see you standing up in your bravery, or see you taking risks, and they can't for the life of them figure out why they aren't able to. So I think it's a lot of jealousy that comes up, and it's very clear online. And so I say this all the time, that jealousy is a totally normal emotion, right? How you handle it, what you do with it is the difference, right? So some people use it to fuel them. I'm the type of person, when I see somebody doing that thing, I'm just like, oh, I need to be like her. I need to learn from her. I need to learn from him. I need to connect with him, right? That's how we got connected. And then there are people who are going to be like, create narratives in their head, try to like create fake pages, to try to bring them down. It's just like, how you handle it is really the biggest difference.
Well, one thing that makes this even more sinister, you have actual other mental health practitioners attacking this woman.
Yeah,
So that no matter what your letters are in front of or behind your name,
yeah,
you have to consider first the mental health of who you're talking to.
correct.
Right? So, okay, she has this online identity. You can say whatever you want to say about her.
Absolutely.
How are your words going to affect this person? How
Right.
are your words going to affect this person's career? How are your words going to affect this person's livelihood? All
Yeah,
of these things tie into their quality of life. And if their quality of life is impacted adversely, it's a possibility that could lead to other things down an even darker path. So, no matter what you say you are, if you're a mental health practitioner or if you're an advocate, then you should be the first one to be gentle with other people's mental health
yeah.
instead of projecting judgments, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think yes, be mindful and kind of the conversations again that we're having, like, are we remaining objective? Are we remaining sort of fact based, right? Versus like trying to tear people down and like really impacting their mental health. And I think those are the two sort of ends of the spectrum that I'm seeing online. But also, I just have to give a big shout out to Dr. Raquel Martin because I think the way she sort of posed the critique was the most beautiful, concise sort of conversation that I've seen online so far this past week regarding the situation. And like she really laid out the facts, right? And she didn't do it in a way to sort of demean or undermine the work of like life coaches and things like that, because there's another part of the conversation that comes up. But she did it in a way to empower both sides, but also give, here are the facts, right? Here's what's happening in the field. Here's who gets to call themselves like a licensed clinical psychologist and a licensed mental health professional. And so I just wanted to shout her out because the way she was able to intentionally like provide that information shows the level of emotional maturity, right? Which I think emotional intelligence is a big part of this and how we sort of handle these things that kind of come our way. And I'm no perfect human being because I'm quick to like let somebody know or check somebody whenever I need to. But I think that's part of the growing conversation that's happening or needs to happen in the midst of all this.
Absolutely right. And what you said, emotional intelligence, even a lot of practitioners don't have that. In
Right.
fact, like in most cases, people who are the first ones to work that job or work a certain job or be in a certain position will be the main ones in need of mental health.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times in school I'm looking at other students like, yo, are you in the right place? You
Yeah.
should you need to be on the other side of this. And oftentimes that's because people are seeking. And let's just have a reminder put out there with what we're saying. This is a reminder for everyone who is out there maybe bullying this woman. You are exposing yourself as you are attempting to expose her for
Mm,
not being valid in whatever way or form or reason. You are also exposing yourself
yeah.
as not being valid in your ability, even no matter how much education you have and credentials, to approach someone's mental health as being the priority over making a point and showing your jurisdiction
Yeah.
or some sort of statusism.
This is true. This is true. And I think it's just interesting to see how this stuff is playing out. And to your point around like seeing students in school that are struggling, I think one of the things that I really appreciate about my program, and I've heard this consistently from other people as well, is that a good therapist is usually in therapy for themselves or working on themselves because we are not the end all be all. We're not God, right? We don't know it all. We can't necessarily heal you per se, but there are going to be times when we are at conflict or things come up for us in session or in working with clients. And so we are using tools like supervision, or we're using tools like our own therapy. In my graduate program specifically, that was the first time I did therapy when I got to grad school, is because that was a mandate for all students coming into the program, or at least my cohort, that we had to be in therapy in addition to doing our, schoolwork and our practicum work. So I really appreciate that, looking back at it in hindsight. And also for my supervisees, right? The people that the young folks that I supervise, shout outs to them. They all graduating this week. But one of the things that we have to normalize is that you're human. You're going to experience a natural reaction to some of these conversations that your clients may bring up. And so how do we handle that, right? How do we make sure that we don't bring our own junk and stuff into the therapeutic dynamic, versus like, how do I like still be human and kind of work on my own stuff simultaneously? And so that's part of the work that we have to be doing. And I'm not saying that therapists have to be in therapy their whole lives for their whole entire career, because I don't believe that's necessarily necessary. But if you are struggling, or things are coming up, or you're having like such a visceral reaction to something online like that, that might be a call for sort of for you to kind of tap in, or kind of just check in with yourself.
Absolutely. And we have to look at the fact that if you are someone who is emotionally intelligent or even objective, you are going to stay in therapy more than likely, because you don't see yourself as someone that's above needing therapy ever, no matter what you learn, right? So if you are someone that is objective enough to sit back and say, well, hey, maybe there's something I'm missing. No matter what I know, maybe it would help to have someone else sit in on my thoughts and weigh in on what's going on in my life besides myself,
Yeah.
right? So, but let's talk about harassment in a broader scope for a moment. Statistically speaking, 57 to 62% of victims of harassment online are women.
Mm,
Up to 70% of women globally have experienced or witnessed harassment online.
wow.
Around 1 in 4 US women report direct online harassment. And I know quite a few women that have been harassed online.
Wow.
Now, women are far more likely to experience sexual harassment, 3 times more likely than men. Non-consensual images, stalking, threads, identity-based abuse. And now that's a whole nother one, where someone else is trying to dupe you, become you,
I've
and
had that.
steal your identity. That's wild.
Yeah. No, I've had that, unfortunately.
Really? Tell me
Yeah.
about it.
No, so like I get, so like both on TikTok and Instagram, people have tried to create fake pages of me to try to like, take advantage of people financially. And I tell people all the time, I will never come to your DM and ask you for money. Like I will never like solicit you to sort of give me your money in any sense. Like that's just not how I operate. But people do it because they want to take advantage, exploit people financially. And so if they see that you have a big enough or established enough brand and community, they will try to replicate what you're doing to try to take advantage of people. So always be mindful of some of these pages out here. But those numbers are actually really scary. And I'm wondering, does the data suggest, like, is it women and men to women? Like, does it break down by sex, or like, what does that give any clarity on that?
Now that's all women's statistics right there. But what do you mean? Like, are women harassing other women, or?
Yeah, women harassing other women, or men the number one culprits of harassing women online, or what does that look like?
Let's see.
Get the real data in real time.
Let's see. That's a really good question. All right. All right. So it doesn't break it down into a percentage, but studies consistently show a majority of identified
Perpetrators.
perpetrators. No, so most of the perpetrators are men.
Yeah. Wow.
Especially in severe cases like threats, sexual harassment, and stalking. Now, if it's identity theft, or someone trying to be you, obviously that would most likely to be women.
Mm,
Yeah,
wow.
so it's overwhelmingly men
That's
on that side. Now, women are much more likely to be harassed by men than by other women in cases of sexual harassment, threats, stalking, and perpetrators are predominantly male, often between 70 to 90%.
wow.
Um, Now, men are harassed by both men and women, but still mostly men.
Wow.
Insults, trolling, arguments. Now, I've been trolled online and was attacked by a woman. Uh, I was live streaming during the pandemic, and it was just about being positive, nothing more, nothing less, that
Mhm,
particular stream. And this is the wild part. I had a woman come into my stream. I had never seen her before.
mhm.
She was a psychologist. And when I say psychologist, she was sitting at her big, heavy wooden desk with all of these plaques behind her, including the university that she went to and everything. And she proceeded to curse me out for every bit, and I allowed it for every bit of 20 minutes straight.
Wow.
She did. She hopped in my box and she went in. Never met her, didn't know her from anywhere. It was almost as if I had some frankincense and myrrh burning up under her nose. And serious, and it was just wild. And everyone in my life was like, "Why don't you just kick her? Why don't you just kick her?" I said, "No, I want y'all to see this because even though she is a psychologist, she seems to be the one that really needs the help. And I'm not going to go back and forth with her. I'm going
Yeah.
to get it out because this is strange. I had never seen anything like that before. Had never seen it again after that. Um, wow.
Wow.
So how do we prevent the harassment? What is there? There's not like internet police, right? There's no one, not necessarily, unless it gets really serious. So, how do we protect ourselves from harassment? Because I've been harassed online actually a couple times in a
Yeah.
couple ways.
It's
Um,
it's really, it's sort of this idea like, how do you stop the abuser from abusing me? In some sense, right? If I can give an analogy. And so, like, I don't think there are ways like me as an individual, I can safeguard how people sort of interact with me or get bothered by some of the things that I do. I think what you can do is that when you do notice it or it does show up, you got to shut that down immediately, right? Ask yourself what you gain from it by continuing to engage with it. And I think a perfect example is me last night when I told you that I don't even know if I mentioned this. So a young woman mentioned that, oh, you don't have a doctorate, so you should stay out of a particular conversation regarding therapists. And I was just like, and so her response was just like, "Oh, you're a grifter, da da this, da da that." And I'm just like, "This is clear that you're somebody that keeps up with me, and you're somebody that probably has, watch my work, watch me online, and you do this consistently, but you have to hide behind a fake page." So in that moment, I probably should have blocked her right there, that instance, just killed it and shut it down. But what I did rather is like I kept her around because, like, again, I say to myself, I could be feeding my ego, right, in doing this, but like it's clearly this is somebody that is like keeping up with me, watching what I'm doing. So to
yeah,
answer your question, I think when it does come up, you block them immediately, right? Like if especially if it's like a safety concern coming up or things like that. The problem is like people think that they're invisible online, right? Like nobody can touch them. They can do whatever they want, say whatever they want, but there are repercussions, right? And so like if it gets to the point where you have to escalate it and take it to the local like sheriff's office or whatever, I do recommend people do that because too many times people think there are no repercussions for their actions. And sometimes I'm a firm believer in like you got to teach people how to treat you. And sometimes you got to take it to that level. But I think the biggest thing is like shutting it down once you notice it. And then if it continues to escalate, you do got to get law enforcement, involved. You do have to take those avenues, even though, that may be skeptical for some people. But I think you absolutely have to protect yourself and your safety if that's something that you see happening or taking place in real time, because you can't control other people. You don't know what they got going in their head. You don't know how long they've been observing you, especially if you have an open page and things like that. You don't know how jealousy is mounting up. You just don't know about people these days. Ever since I wouldn't even say ever since the pandemic, but things have substantially gotten worse, I would say. And so you just don't know what people are capable of, or like how much or what length they're willing to go to prove their point. So sometimes you just got to shut it down as soon as you see it.
I agree. And you mentioned one thing, which is privacy.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, that's why you have to keep some of, if not all of, your social media private.
Mhm.
You know, people will save pictures,
Yeah.
save images, create pages of you just to harass you. And that is wild. You know, another thing, of course, you can block them and you can mute them and things like that.
Yeah.
But if they are really insistent upon harassing you, they will create as many pages as
Absolutely.
possible. You know, but I think the most important thing is don't give them what they want, which is a reaction. You
Yeah.
know,
Your energy.
they want attention, they want a reaction,
Yeah.
they want an emotional payoff. They want to know that they touched you in some way and it worked and it was effective. And that's giving them some sense of gratification. What is that called? What kind of, I don't know if that's narcissistic. I don't like to throw that around, but that's
Yeah.
definitely a clinical diagnosis. But what is that?
I don't know that is. I mean, part of it could be a narcissistic trait, but I don't know if we can definitively call it narcissism per se because we don't know enough, right? We see one aspect of this person's identity or this person's behavior, and so I don't think it's enough to kind of give that full sort of diagnosis, but it definitely could. We all have traits, right? We all have characteristics of a lot of these clinical diagnoses. Not all of them, but we have some of them, right? That's a part of the human being experience. And so I think where it becomes to the point of clinical diagnosis is like, is it impacting the different functions of sort of this person's life, right? Their ability to function at work, their ability to function in social relationships, their ability, which one could question your ability to navigate online and socialize online and collapsing or like thriving in that. Someone can call to question whether that is their ability, to manage that social aspect. But I also think it's like it's different aspects of a person's life that helps us arrive at a point of diagnosis. So like it definitely could be speaking to a larger issue, and who knows, but whether it is or whether it's not, like you don't want to entertain that.
Exactly. That is not something that we actually want to entertain. And are we getting some responses there? Is that what I'm seeing now?
Says new comments will display here. I don't know.
Yeah, I clicked that button and now I'm seeing some things right there. I don't.
No.
Looks like y'all are commenting. I was simply trying to see what the chat comments were, and they came right onto the screen. Um, but yeah, so that's something that you have to think about. Also, documenting that harassment. You know, you need to document what's happening. You need to make sure you're not just keeping it to yourself because you never know when someone in private will then go to something in public. Can you
Yeah,
read those comments on the screen?
I can't see anything. It just says new comments will display here.
What's up, y'all? I see your comments over here. Let's see if I don't know why I don't see them on the. They're usually shown on the right,
Yeah.
and I don't see them.
No, hey y'all. Fortunately, you can't see comments.
Hold on one second. Let's see what we could do about this. Okay, yeah. Now I can see it for some reason. Oh, I see now. It's like a little box on the screen.
You can see it.
Okay, yeah. They're saying they love the background. Thanks for coming in, y'all. We appreciate you being here and tapping into our live. But yeah, so back to what we were saying, you know,
I think switching gears a little bit, right? Like getting into the mindset of the individual that is doing the bully or is doing the harassment, right? We talked about how you can prevent it from one side, but like I think what's happening for the person on the other side that is getting to that point of doing the harassment and the bullying is that these people are struggling with some internal stuff, right? Whether it's like jealousy, whether it's like feeling not good enough, insignificant, like whatever it is. Unfortunately, people are bringing some of those struggles and projecting it to people online, right? So, like, for instance, there's a big content creator. I don't know, I'll just name anyone. Think about anyone, right? Think about your favorite content creator. There's more than likely a number of individuals who have a lot of consistently mean, negative things to say. And that's not to say that they're above reproach or above, you know, indifferent feedback and things like that. But you have people who are literally make it their business to consistently be negative towards them or try to bring them down. And so, like, those are the people that are probably just not happy with themselves, plain outright. And so that's a call to action for you. Like, do you need support? Do you need to get offline? If you're noticing that something is triggering you consistently online, why do you continue to engage with it, right? What reward, we talk about reward systems, like what do you get out of that, right? Are you secretly feeding something for yourself that tells you that you know, you're not good enough? Do you get something out of that when you leave that negative comment? Well, like, what does that feedback look like for you?
Yeah.
And is that healthy, right? I think that's the biggest question. Well, maybe not healthy is the best question. Is that sustainable, right? Is that productive, right? And so if you find yourself constantly, consistently in that negative space and consistently like bullying, harassing, what you got to ask yourself, what do you get out of that, right? If you're the bullier here, right? Or to the person last night who wanted to question, well, not question, name the fact that I don't have a doctorate, which I never claimed to have a doctorate. I don't want one. I have no student loan debt. I have no incentive to get one, right? It's not going to increase my financial, you know, well-being. Um, you went out of your way to say that to do what? To diminish me, right? In a sense, right? What did you get out of that? Because I'm still here. I'm still showing up. I'm still engaging. I'm still doing what I do. It doesn't do anything for me. It says more about you than me, right?
Absolutely. And you know, most people who are bullies are people who are suffering quietly anyway. You know, if you're a bully and you want to talk down on other people, you're just out here trying to infect people with what's going on with you on the inside, right?
Projection.
And you are projecting. And in fact, there are a lot of people who do that to themselves every day. They talk down to themselves until they start speaking it out to the world. So obviously, if that person is talking negatively to you, you know, or they're saying something to you that's in contrary to what you're saying, or they want to debate, or they just want to throw salt out on something that you're saying, and they want to be disagreeable, that's something that they're dealing with internally. And now they're projecting it out to you. But it keeps reminding me of this. I keep getting reminded of this saying my grandmother always said. And it took me 20 years of repeating it into my own head in order for
Yeah.
me to get it. She would say, nothing goes over the devil's back that don't buckle under their belly. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Grandma?
Wow. Wow.
What goes over the devil's back and buckles under their belly? So then one day I went over it in my head. I said, well, if it goes over your back and then it buckles under your belly, it's probably a coat. What does a coat have to do with it? It wasn't a coat, but the fact that if you put on something, you have to wear it. If you're a hating type person, you're the one experiencing that hate before you try to direct it toward anyone else, right? So the person that is being a bully is also revealing that they're in a bad state, right? So I think
Absolutely.
so across the internet, where you see people bullying one another and you see people downplaying and talking negative to each other, what they feel to realize is they're exposing themselves for their own mental illness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If
Absolutely.
they,
And I always say, right?
if
Go
they
ahead.
realize that, they would shut up.
Yeah, you're just exposing yourself. You're telling more about yourself than anything else. And I think what I always say is that people use so defense mechanisms, right? Going back to that, right? We use those as human beings, we engage in those or deploy those when things become uncomfortable, right? When things are coming really intense inside and we don't know how to handle it, we sort of we lean onto these different defense mechanisms, whether it's projection, whether it's repression, trying to, dig everything really deep inside of us. Like, these things are things that we learn to use over time to try to deal with the uncomfortable feelings of whatever, self-doubt, insecurity, whatever is coming up with us. So it's very clear when people behave that way. And again, I just want to reemphasize, these are adults, right? And not to say that we're perfect, but again, it's a call to action, right? Use that as a sort of motivation to be a call to action that I might need help, right? Versus like me acting like a silly person online and thinking that I'm proving a point when in fact it's falling flat and it's actually telling more about you and how, unequipped you are to sort of navigate certain spaces.
And you said a mouthful right there. You said a mouthful right there, and that's absolutely the case. So even with people harassing you, when you see people harassing you, we have to start realizing that that is someone showing they are having a mental health emergency.
Mm-hmm.
You are witnessing someone online harassing people, they are having a mental health emergency. And if someone is having a mental health emergency, then you need to treat it as such, right?
Mm-hmm.
And treating it as such can vary. That could just be blocking them,
Yeah.
right? But there almost is like there needs to be a mental health bot. There needs to be some type of mod bot in
Yeah.
like every form of social media to watch for things like that, to watch
Yeah.
for bullying, to
Yeah.
watch for harassing.
Yeah.
Because ModBot will watch if you say profane things. I might have just came up with a business model for some tech company. Hey, I said,
Mhm.
don't you go out there and create
Yeah.
no ModBot to watch people. Hey, or you can call me. Let's do it together. I have to
Let's
help
work
you.
together.
But no, really, like there needs to be some type of firewall for people who are harassing people, who are speaking to people in not just derogatory ways that are obvious, because a lot of times this type of communication is passive aggressive. It's covert. It's not always overt communication.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think TikTok or tried to do it for the most part, where they would like if you submitted a comment or you made a comment that was like seen as negative or inflammatory or like potentially dangerous, they would remove the comment and flag your account. So like I think if you get up to 3 flags, like they'll remove your account or you're like or you don't have access, something like that. I'm not too sure of the outcome, but I think a lot of these big tech giants are a lot of these states are bringing them to court, right? I think Massachusetts, my home state, was one of them where they like said indirectly or made the claims that these social media platforms are impacting the mental health of teens. And I'd argue not just teens, adults too, because it can get really ugly up there. And so they're actually bringing them to court to fight this and have these, big tech giants, make things like what we're discussing here or take the initiative to resolve or at least try to mitigate it as much as possible because we're spending a lot of time online. I know I'm online a lot chronically, and there are people that are just like sometimes I'll go toe to toe with them and sometimes I'm just like, yo, is people aren't okay. That's what I find myself saying often.
They are not. And if they're attacking you and they don't know you, or even the idea of attacking someone, and generally shows that they don't understand the impact of verbal abuse
Yeah.
and mental health.
Yeah.
If that was the case, if we all understood that, we would be a lot more kind to each other online.
Exactly.
Because you may talk to someone and say the wrong thing, and they may not respond well to that.
Yeah,
You
that could be
know,
their last reason, right?
Exactly. So we have to stay away from and steer away from that type of behavior. Well, in close, I think this is a topic, again, I say this every week. This is a topic that has to be ongoing. We're going to have a part two of a lot of these conversations. I think providing outlets for those that are experiencing harassment. I don't know of any numbers offhand or places you can go to, but if you find yourself being harassed and
Mhm.
it's affecting you, I would definitely, if they're not willing to log out, I may even log out completely.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, if someone is out there harassing you, they've been on the internet too long. They're too absorbed with what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think most people don't know when to log out.
They
You know,
don't.
and even so, like I'll be on the internet and people will be telling things about their life, their business they should keep to themselves, or just saying things that are wild that might impact, their overall image publicly, their ability to get other jobs. I'm like, how come you didn't log out a
Yeah.
month or a year ago. Like you should have logged
Well,
out.
part of it is also that we live in this sort of social media currency society right now, right? Where, like, if you say the most salacious things online or you do the most wildest things, you'll get views, right? Views equal money for most people, right? So, like, people are constantly on the hunt or constantly willing to put themselves in compromising situations, I would say,
Yeah.
to obtain that said like currency, right? And so like it's part of it's attention currency, part is it like there's a financial aspect to it as well. And so people are willing to do a lot of things. I think it's been proven online to get that, right? Because in exchange they get money. So unfortunately, with these like with these monetizations of these platforms, you're going to see a lot of people doing some interesting things, to say the very least. And so you get to decide if you want to see that, right? When somebody gets on my nerves, I have no problem blocking them. I'm just like, yo, this content is stupid. Like, I don't even want to see this on my timeline. I'll block them, right? Like, I like this whole conversation about Cheyenne Bryant. I blocked her a long time ago because I realized what it was. It wasn't for me. That's not to say I'm just invalidating her or like anything like that. It just wasn't for me. So like I blocked it a long time ago. So I don't have all these thoughts that other people have thoughts on. Block
Well,
it.
let's remember what makes it valid is what brings value. So if it's
Exactly.
not bringing value to you, then it's not valid for you, right?
Exactly.
It's for those that like trolling and that might read gossip columns. That's great for those types of people. But
Right.
there's so much that we can do with the internet. We can use the internet to communicate with people, to express ourselves, to create art. We can bridge gaps between here and other parts of the world. But we want to sit on the internet and harass each other or have something negative to say. And if you're one of those people that always have something negative to say, you need to check yourself. You need to go get a mental health checkup
Yeah.
today. You need to log out.
Take a
And
break.
people are saying it enough. Log out.
Take a
You
break.
online, you're saying too much, you're doing too much, bro. You need to log out.
Take a
That's
break.
that's
It's yeah.
and until you can get it together, pull it together, you need to log out. And in fact, what if the internet was limited and you could only spend but so much time on here, right?
Mhm.
People would curate their thoughts better,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
If you had, and now that gets back to social ratings and social scores, right? If there was something tracking how you engage with and what you say to people and how uplifting and how motivating and how encouraging and how demotivating you are, and if people were literally rated on those things, which sounds like another form of algorithm.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's what the algorithm does. If you like mess, the algorithm is going to drop you off in the messiest part of the internet. If you like empowerment, the internet's gonna drop. Excuse me, the algorithm will drop you off there. If you like a combination of the two, the algorithm will drop you off there. The algorithm feeds you what you want, right? So if you're consistently seeing some of these things that you feel are problematic or you don't agree with or you don't want to see, then you have to ask yourself, what am I engaging with online? Because the algorithm is, I don't want to say it's a direct reflection of you, but it is a reflection of your some of the things you either you subconsciously like or enjoy, or directly you're engaging with it.
Yeah, and it's feeding you more of what you are than what you want, right?
Come
Because
on.
if this is what you're paying attention to, that's who you are. You are what you pay attention to. If all you pay attention to is negative things and depressing things, you're going to be negative and depressed.
Right.
If all you're paying attention to is positive, motivation, uplifting things, you're going to feel positively inspired and you're going to feel uplifted and motivated.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, this is a topic, like I said, again, we can keep going on forever.
Yeah.
I think finding safe spaces where people can be creating and curating safe spaces where people can communicate and they can get things off of their chest and they can have productive conversations and where there's more community. And even with the woman that you were speaking about, Cheyenne Bryant, the mental health community is showing by the way they're communicating with her that there is no community. Because if anything, they should have said, hey, we need to talk to you.
Which Dr. Raquel did. I will say that.
Boom. And that's how you do it. Let's come over here. Let's talk. Are you good? Do you need anything? You're being attacked. Secondly, these people may have what they think is valid points. What are you going to do about that? Or is there anything you need help with? How can I help? because we want to look down at people and judge people, but are you trying to help that person?
Yeah.
Maybe they need help in some sort of way.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's an opportunity for her to partner with someone who is credentialed.
That is.
If she's obviously a better lead generator than most others, and there was a conversation like that happened, I think, at your event that you have, but you have another one coming up, you should plug it. But yeah, there was a conversation about a man who wasn't even
Yeah.
and he's big on social media when it comes to mental health, right?
Yeah.
Okay, he has the personality for social media. No one should lie about their credentials, but he had the personality for social media. So now he's still part of that community. He may not be credentialed, but he may be a great lead generator, someone to be in the forefront, or encourage him to go back to school. Show him how he can go back to school if he needs to. And if he doesn't want to, he's not interested, he's still part of that community. He's getting people's attention. Partner with him and make his offering stronger.
That's such a good point. And I think at the root of this, I mean, I could be wrong, but this is my suspicion. At the root of this is all a positioning game, right? There are going to be therapists that come on social media and dominate the space and dominate the thing that they're doing because they understand positioning, they understand timing, they understand consistency and discipline, right? And so the ones that don't, I feel like, are the ones in an uproar right now. And again, I'm not saying that your feelings or what you're promoting is invalid in the sense that you're calling her out and that she's misrepresenting herself. You work so hard for your degrees, you work so hard for your credentials, but to her credit, she understands positioning. That's why she claims to be the number one requested psychological expert in the world. Questionable, but whatever. She's getting placed, she's getting booked, she's getting paid, right? So I do think a lot of these conversations, a lot of these critiques are stemming from the fact that people don't feel like they should be in that position, right? But I tell people all the time on my platforms, I tell them in my communities, I tell them when I'm teaching them one-to-one to these fellow therapists, it's about positioning. It's about consistency. It's about doing the sort of unorthodox thing, not the unethical thing, but the unorthodox thing. It's about taking chances. It's about putting yourself out there. And if you don't do any of those things, you can't expect any results, right? So the gentleman that you were talking about earlier, he was consistent. He was showing up online. He was speaking from a narrative of a Black male therapist in training, though he'd never disclosed it. That's fine, right? But like he positioned himself. He was consistent. He made quality content. He engaged. He built a community. He did the fundamentals. That's where he is right now, right? Getting ready to release another book.
That part. And instead of hating and harassing someone, I think it's both sides. It's harassment. And instead of harassing someone, participate. Say, hey, I see what you're doing. I'm not really sure how you did it.
Hello.
I would like to learn something. If you want to learn, just say that.
Hello. That's exactly what I told that young woman yesterday. I'm just like, it's clear you wish you want to learn from me and I could teach you a lot of things, but you're too busy hating and that's getting in the way of you making money and getting to the next level.
Boom. Because some people think their shine comes from
that's it.
Shitting on someone else.
And it don't work like that.
And it doesn't work like that. So instead of hating, participate. If you want to shine and you like the way someone else is shining or you see what they're doing, you don't have to kill their joy or point out their flaws. You can always learn from them the things that they're doing right.
That's it.
Instead of focusing on what they're doing wrong.
That's it.
That's it. That's all. Well, we're going to land this plane. I think that's our time for this week.
Yes.
It's been great diving deep with you into these conversations as always, Anine.
Good to talk to you always as well.
Yes, indeed. And until next time, this is Wealthy Being.